Hi everybody. Today we're going to be working on the level progression. Before we actually get to that though, I'm going to make a couple changes to the key bindings for the game and for the menu. I'm also going to be adding a few helpers just to make the game's implementation a little bit cleaner. So to start, we're going to go to key bindings. So I'm going to go to game C++ first. Actually, I'm going to go to menu C++, I lied. And what I'm going to be adding are like Vim key bindings. So right now I'm pressing J to go down. So that's super easy. And then I'm also going to add this. So this is K to go up. Cool. I'm also going to go to game C++ and I'm going to update that as well. Yeah, it's got to be that way for me. So S is down. That's J. I'll make this a little bit bigger actually, just so it's easier to read. This is wrong, it should be H. Yeah. Oof, rough key bindings there. Really rough. There it is. Cool. Okay, so now if we test it, level, let me clear that. So now we do this, /Sokoban, levels, like level 0, 1, let's just say. Q, and then we can like go like this. And then if we do like level 0, level 1, right, all the Vim key bindings are working totally fine. Okay, next up, I'm gonna actually add a constants. And that's just going to make our life a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is there's like this like UI regular we had, and it was in the it was in this, which is kind of gross. It shouldn't really be there, to be totally frank. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to constants, which we just defined, and we're actually going to change this. So it is this const int, right? And then instead of this, we're just going to change it to color, and then we'll make it equal. Cool. I'm going to add two other things. Key escape, which is equal to 27 for whatever reason. And then I'm also going to add this const char star const levels dir, and it's just going to be equal to levels. If this const isn't here, it doesn't work. The whole thing has to be const, and basically this is saying this character is const and the pointer to the characters is const, right? Cool. So those are our constants, and we're going to be using them right now actually because we got rid of one. UI regular, we can just make it. So we'll go here, color, regular, and then we'll also need to do color highlighted. Looks good to me. And then we also need to do it in here, color there, include constants. Now if we make it, there's a problem in instructions. So we'll go into 41, and we already know how to fix it. It's just color, include it. Now we make it right, and everything's working as expected. Cool. The last thing I want to do before we actually get into the implementation of the level progression is I want to get rid of that Sokoban free. And that's because we have to call it every single time, and I kind of want to change where we call it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that there. I'm going to remove this, Then what I'm going to do in game header file, I'm going to add a destructor, game C++. And then what we can do is we can actually implement it here. And then we can call Sokoban for a state. And then if we go to the actual implementation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if state.originalBlocks equals null pointer, then do it. And basically what we're doing here is we're trying to prevent double freeze. We're not going to do it for every single one because the way this is implemented, if one is a null pointer, then all the others will be a null pointer. But we also need to guarantee that. So I'm going to do, I believe it is Control V, Shift A, no, yeah, there it is, equals null pointer. And now we're guaranteeing that these are a null pointer regardless of the operating system. So there's that. And now what we can actually get to is the progression. And so let's just make it. So we'll do touch src, level progression. I tried to tab like it was there. It's not. Level progression C++. Cool. So we're going to start with game CPP. No. Game header file. And what we're going to do is we're just going to yank that level progressions header file. We'll put it there. We don't need Sokoban. Well, actually, we will use Sokoban. So I'm just going to keep it there for now. Level progression, we're not using that. That's fine. We're not using that. And in terms of the actual state machine, like where do we want things to go? Either we're going to go back to the menu, or because the menu will take us to the level progression, or we're going to go to the game. And you'll notice I'm calling game here instead of level progression, or instead of state. And that's because we're going to be using the state, and we're going to be updating the game state, in this case the Sokoban state right here, to basically say I want to load level 0, level 1, level 2, etc. Right. So while we're thinking about states, it's probably a good time to actually update the state machine. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add a level progression. Cool. And instead of the menu going to the game, it's going to go to the level progression. Scary enough. All right. And now we get rid of that. I'm also going to change this. So the game, instead of going to the menu, is going to go to the level progression. Right. Level progression. Cool. And then we also need to add transitions now for the level progression. Is going to be equal to, you guessed it, the menu. And the game is going to be equal to, you guessed it, the game. Simple enough. Everything looks good, but we're not actually going to run because there's going to be no behaviors. So let's go to the level progression. And what we want is we want these two. And I'm actually going to add two more functions now that I think about it. We're going to add a constructor, and we're going to add a helper function called load progression. And load progression is going to be reading from this directory. So let's take these, yank, go into here, put this here, include level progression, and let's start actually implementing. So this one is just going to call load progression. Super easy, and you'll see why we're using this. We have this helper function in just a second. The load progression is going to be a little bit more complicated. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reading from this directory. So the way we're going to do that actually is we're going to be using this comes from C++ 2017, but I'm going to just do the most up-to-date version. And so to do that, first I need to tell my editor in this case Z, that we're using C++23. Really, it could just be 17 and we'd be totally fine, but it's just a little bit easier. Then we need to update the makefile to then tell our compiler, hey, I want to use this specific version. And at some point we should actually update the makefile to be a little bit smarter. But anyway, C++23 is now what we're going to be using, so that's cool. And then we can actually get into implementation. Before I do that, I'm just going to do a get ch. We'll actually remove this in a little bit. And we're not actually going to do anything other than this needs to be level progression, cool, and then we don't have end curses, so that solves that. And then for this, we'll just return, and we're just going to start with a very simple print w level progression. Okay, so now if we at least run it, we're going to have a problem, of course. Oh, that's the problem. There it is. C++23, and now if we call /Sokoban, it's going to give us the level must be provided. But if you recall, we're doing this level progression, so we no longer need to specify this. So I'm going to take this, and I'm actually just going to put it in, I have like 2 level progressions. So this one has three S's for some reason, but it's where I put it. So let me just put this here and then just delete that. Don't care about it. Let's go in here. I'm going to deal with this in just a little bit. Okay. Make. So far, so good. Now we no longer need to, oops, did I not update the main C++ file? Maybe I didn't save it, that's a classic. Yeah, okay, cool. Level progression and everything's hunky-dory. We should, while I'm still here and thinking, we'll call clear so that way the main menu goes away, but that's totally fine for right now. Really what we want to get to is using this directory right here and using this directory, sorry, and actually reading from it. And the reason why we went to a more modern version is so we could do this, where basically we're going to loop through the directory with the std file system. And then we're going to use directory iterator. Did I get the clang D right? Yeah, I did. Directory iterator and levels dir. So hopefully you recall that. Oh, this should be like this. And then what we can do is we can say include file system, so that's all good. Of course, we don't have this, which we need. And then what we have right here, right, is we're going to have one of these files. Another thing I'm not doing, but maybe I should do, is some kind of error checking to make sure the levels directory actually exists. But at the same time, if it doesn't exist, it's going to quit, and I'm okay with that. So just something to think about. Level progression header file. We need somewhere to actually store these items, so I'm going to just use a vector, and that's because I kind of want to not define how many levels there are going to be in this directory. I kind of want it to be kind of variable, and I'm actually going to use std string just for ease of life, frankly. And I'm going to call this levels. I'm actually going to call it progression. No, levels is easier. Let's use levels. Okay. And then I'm going to have one other thing, has to be size t, and this is going to be like selected index, let's say, and it's always going to be default to 0. And we'll also just default these to null pointer, and yeah, that's totally good right there. Okay, cool. So now what we can do, levels.pushback, and then we can do entry.path. So this is getting the path to this thing right here. And now the problem that we actually have right now is we are not guaranteed that these levels are going to be in the correct order. The other thing is, do we really want to show them level -0, level -1? Not really. And I kind of already know what I want to show them, which is going to be like 0.1 and 0.2. So I'm just going to rename all these files. And then what I can do is, instead of having to implement our own sort, which in this case, there's really just no reason to, we can just use the standard library for this specific function, and then we can just sort it. And now we're going to have 0.0 at the top as the first level, and 0.2 at the bottom as the last level, right? So now that we have like our basic level progression, at least in theory, we actually need to make it show up. So that's what we're going to do now. This is kind of just like rote at this point, this color pair thing where we have like color regular, const auto highlighted, right? Color pair, and then color highlighted. I'm actually going to change the order just because I'm a little crazy, where like this is 1 and then this is 2. Just feels like I should do it that way. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to do a bunch of prints, right? So we need to do size t, I equals 0, I less than levels.size, or yeah, levels, plus I, and then we also need plus y, and then we can do move y0, right? And then what we need to do is if I is equal to, maybe what we do is like color is equal to, let me remember, I haven't written a ternary in a while, but it should be like I equals selected index, question mark, and if so, we'll go color. No, we'll just do highlighted, else we'll do regular. And then what we can do is attribute on, and then we can do color, then we can do print w, and we can print out levels I, and we can't do just that, because that returns a C++ string, and curses is written in C, so it has no idea what that is. It needs a char star or a C string. And then we can just do color again. Okay, so I think that's all we need to do for rendering. Again, this is not a very good rendering, right? We'll come back in the next video and actually clean it up and make it look good. But for right now, you can see we have a level progression. We're highlighted on one of those, but we actually need to be highlighted on more than just that. So that's going to take us to this thing right here, where we get to the switch, and then we have a bunch of behaviors to implement. So the first one that I want to get to is if the user wants to quit, case Q, and case key escape. I think I did, yeah, good. And if they want to leave the level progression, they totally can. We'll return the menu. In the case that they want to move around, right, then we have a bunch of typing to do. So if they want to go up, right, we have to do the WASD kind of thing, and then we got to do the vim kind of thing, and then we have to do the more basic, just key up kind of thing. And in this case, what we'll do is we'll do like selected index, I don't love that, and -1 mod levels.size, right, and then we'll break. And And then in the other one, we're going to be going down. So again, we have to use the WASD keys. Now we need to use the Vim keys. And then we need to do the arrow keys. And then we're just going to be doing the same thing as this, right? But instead of that, what we're doing is plussing. Okay, and then just for good practices, we'll do break. All right, let's see this. See how it looks. Sokoban. So now everything is looking good. You do see if I press down right here, it's going to wrap to the top. But if I press up, any of the up keys, by the way, it's not actually going to wrap to the top. And that's because this behavior isn't the greatest. But we'll come back to this probably at some point. We'll just do like a at to do. Should it wrap up? And then we will do this. Should it wrap down, sorry. And then we'll add another two. Should it not wrap up? Right, so there's that. And then we'll also check Q real quick. That was working. Escape, as you can see, works. And then we can also press escape to exit. No, we actually can't. So let's fix that real quick, and then we'll keep going with the Q, and then we'll add like a case key escape. And then if I didn't do that, then I probably also didn't do it here. Q, yep, case key escape. Cool. And then the other thing I've been thinking about is we have like lines like this really common to do macro for key up, key down, etc. Where basically we could create a macro just to auto fill in these case statements for us every time. Something I'm thinking about. Let's before we actually go into assigning the level, let's just make sure this is working. Yeah, okay, so I'm happy with it. Let's get into the last part of it, where basically what we're going to do is we're going to use the code from before, right, where we basically call it like case this, case that, and I have this thing I've already written where basically it's an admonishment, if you will, of what I'm doing. Oops. So let me do that. This, I'm going to return game. Actually, we'll keep it like that. But we actually need to set game first. So I have this, which I'm doing right here. I'm just going to put it right here. Right, we have this. And now we need to make some adjustments. It's just called levels. User selected, just selected index. We have RC error right here, level selected index. We don't actually have an import for that. And then we're going to set running equal to false, but there's no extern global right now for that. So we can fix that. Bool running. And then we're not including an F stream for that, so let's do that. Okay, so now we're here and everything I think looks fine. It is a bug though, because we're not doing that. So basically we're just declaring a bunch of things that aren't constant, which is no good. So that's fixed. Level 0, we're going to load it. Before we actually load it, we're going to actually call Sokoban free on the game state. So this is that. And then we want to actually call, actually let me from level, I think it was. Game state level. Oh, it's because I don't have this. Okay, cool. So, yeah. I accidentally closed that, so that's fine. So basically, we're calling Sokoban free. There's a chance of a double free, but remember, we have this block right here. So on the first time we run Sokoban in it, we're not going to have a double free, and we're not going to have any leaked memory. And then when we call here, we'll malloc and do stuff. But the fact that we're like re-mallocing every time we load a level is kind of stupid, kind of bad practice. Not bad practice, it's just stupid. And we can do it a lot better, but I'm going to leave that for the next video or two, depending on when we get to it, because I'm also just going to change pretty much the whole way we load levels. Because one, it just shouldn't be in the level progression. It should be in the Sokoban implementation. And two, we're doing a bunch of allocations with like strings, with this get line stuff, and we can just do it byte by byte. So that's what I'm going to change it to. But that's going to be for another video when we actually get there. So let's see if it actually works, because that's never a guarantee. So if I press play, it works. I'll press Q, I'll press 0. Still works. Looks good to me. I'm never going to beat this level, I feel like. Like already I made it unbeatable, I feel like. Yeah, now it's definitely. But you can also see like this isn't great. So maybe we should make something a little bit smarter. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good stopping point. There's still a lot to do. I think everybody knows that just based off of all the to-dos I put in. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.